Hi, this is Ando, and in this video I want to talk to you today about your health. Whether like me you're an aspiring minimalist, or maybe you're a nomad or an aspiring RV life person, prepper, etc. There's an important step that all of us need to take on our path to having a more simplistic life. You really can't be a successful prepper or retiree or living in a schoolie or a minimalist if you're always needing medical attention. It's really a burdensome life when you need to ride in an ambulance, go to an ER, visit lots of doctors, etc. So in this video we're going to talk about how to avoid kind of the Western culture diseases that we all seem to suffer from. So as you know, I'm still in corporate America. My plan is to move out here in a few years, but I am enjoying the great medical benefits. However, being in corporate America for 30 years, I've developed something called hypertension, and that is basically high blood pressure. And mine was pretty bad. I was hitting 180 over 110, so some really, really bad numbers. And so I made some dramatic changes. It's possible I could be on medication the rest of my life, and I want all of you to avoid that if at all possible. Now again, there are some genetic diseases that some of us are going to suffer from, and that just is what it is. But I'm talking about those lifestyle diseases, these Western culture diseases that we kind of ease ourselves into by not taking great care of ourselves. So several years ago, I did make some really big decisions that they seem like they're tough, but they weren't. They were simple. I gave up all refined sugar. In fact, I gave up all sweeteners of any type. I certainly am not going to eat artificial sweeteners. And then about maybe a year ago, when the pandemic hit, I gave up drinking, which was weird. I didn't mean to, but I wasn't going out, and I wasn't, I wasn't going over to friends' houses for parties and dinners, and so there wasn't opportunities to drink. So I just kind of forgot to do it. And there was some times in my life where I would enjoy a bottle of wine, every other day. That equates to a lot of wine, and if you think about it, a lot of money. And $10, $12 bottles of wine, sorry, my taste isn't that sophisticated. That does still total, $2,500 to $3,000 a year just for wine. So I still would have wine on occasion, but I don't drink anywhere near what I used to. I also, of course, have given up fast food. I haven't been to a fast food restaurant in probably 2 or 3 years. I don't need a French fry. I'd rather have an apple. So all processed foods, I gave all of that up. And then, of course, because I have hypertension, I also had to give up salt. And so that's a tricky one. Salt and sugar are in so many of the products that we buy. So I gave up as much salt as I could. There's still a little bit that creeps into your diet, which, we do need a small amount of it. So what I'm going to do now is stop the video here. We're going to go into the kitchen because I stopped eating the processed foods, left that behind me, and then I jumped into an exclusive diet of the superfoods. We all know what the superfoods are. Blueberries, avocados, salmon, oats, quinoa. I mean, there's just so many great superfoods. Why are we wasting our time eating anything but? Food is medicine. What we eat is what we get. And so let's hop into the kitchen and we'll talk about a few of the things that I do eat on a daily basis. So welcome to my minimalist kitchen. In this portion of the video, I'd like to talk to you about the things that we should be eating. This is what I am consuming right now, which is a medication. As I mentioned before in a different video, I have hypertension, which means I will be having to rely on high blood pressure medication for possibly the rest of my life. I would like those of you who haven't gotten there yet to please avoid that. And then who knows, maybe there'll come a point where I can actually stop taking hypertension medication. That would be my goal. And how do I do that? And that is by eating an amazing diet instead of a horrible diet. So let me go ahead and throw some things onto the countertop to show you what the superfoods are that we should be eating. Wow, this looks like a lot of food when it's all lined up on the countertop, but it really isn't. As we quickly go through some of these things, these are the staples, the basics of my diet. Now, sometimes I think of this as the dog food diet. If you think about a dog, they eat the same thing for breakfast, the same thing for lunch, the same thing for dinner. They just eat the same thing. And so I kind of do that as well. I find the things that are the most nutritious, the best for our bodies, and I focus my energy on those, and then I skip the things that are not healthy. I do try to buy organic as much as possible, but of course, that's not always possible. We have to also be conscious of cost, etc. So some of the things that are here in front of us that actually are superfoods, wild salmon is one of the superfoods. Out of all the fish in the sea, it's one of the lower for mercury, and I buy the no salt added. It comes in a variety of different containers, and I use it in place of tuna essentially. I have given up salt, so I found that these little garlic gold nuggets, they're like little crunchy dried bits of garlic, and those do so much for flavor that we're missing when we're not having salt. Of course, whole grain, brown rice, organic. Quinoa, I use quinoa instead of pasta with a spaghetti dish that I make. I cook the quinoa in my Instant Pot with a chicken broth, and unsalted chicken broth with tomatoes, sun-dried tomatoes, and then I make a separate kettle of sauce with some grass-fed ground hamburger and tomato paste and onions, and so quinoa is a really good food. Nuts, so unsalted mixed nuts. Costco has an amazing price for this huge container, and that's why I buy the non-organic. And then Trader Joe's also has fancy mixed nuts that are unsalted, but they're roasted. I actually do like the non-roasted ones a little bit better. Popcorn's not a superfood, but I do buy the organic. It's a great treat with a little coconut oil sprayed on it, and then I sprinkle on some brewer's yeast or nutritional yeast. Black beans are a huge part of my diet. I buy the organic black beans, and then I start a jar. I fill it with black beans, add water, let it sit on the counter for about half a day, and then it goes in the fridge, and I add that to my rice bowls, which is really good. Raisins actually are a sweetener. I say I don't use sweeteners, but these are actually a sweetener, and I put them in a variety of things. I actually put them in my rice bowls. I put them in some of my desserts that I'll talk about here in just a moment. Eggs are an important staple, and of course, you can't have like eggs for all 3 meals, but if you eat a reasonable amount of eggs, you don't have to worry as much about the cholesterol. But I do want to point out that when you are buying eggs, look at the number on the carton. This one says 356. These were packaged on the 356th day of the year. So I always look at the variety of eggs, and I always buy those that are the most fresh. I bought some yesterday from Trader Joe's that already had the 004. So the 4th day of the new year, whereas these were packaged on December 20th of last year, of 2020. Organic tomato paste, I buy mine in glass jars, so there's no risk of the stuff that's in tin cans. And this one's organic and salt-free, and so important. I use this for my spaghetti sauce, but I also use it for ketchup on occasion. I do sometimes use real ketchup, so I buy the Primal Kitchen ketchup, which has no added sugar. It still has some salt, but out of all the ketchups, I find that it does have the least amount of salts. Organic fruits and vegetables all the way. Oatmeal. I have my refrigerator oats 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. It's just oats, a milk product. For me, it's West soy. Soy milk, it could be almond milk for you, or it could be real milk, which is also, good for some people. Blueberries and all the seasonings. Cinnamon, allspice, clove, ginger. I make a really nice flavorful overnight oats. Mix it up the night before, take it out of the fridge the following morning, and put it in your lunch pail. Lots of spinach. Spinach is a superfood, and so we want to put a lot of energy on eating a lot of spinach. If I do want protein, I'll eat tofu. These little Wildwood tofus are single packs. They break in half for people who are cooking for one, which is me. But I still also do eat beef, and when I do eat beef, it is the grass-fed, not just finished, but grass-fed from start to finish that I buy. And then I portion it, and of course I seal it away in my vacuum sealer. I did go with the Ezekiel breads, and I buy these simply because they have the least amount of salt. And these are frozen, so they never go bad. I don't have to worry about bread getting stale. I also buy the Ezekiel little flatbreads, and on these I make a great little pizza. So I use the tomato paste, sprinkle on my oregano, my garlic, my basil. These are all great spices. Throw on sun-dried tomatoes, some real tomatoes, put on some spinach, a little oil to protect the spinach, and then in the oven it goes. I just cut like a little organic tomatoes in half to make those little pizzas, and they are great. Now I did mention rice and beans. I make a lot of rice bowls, and I will either make my own tahini dressing with lemons and tahini, which is wonderful. This is only like $6 at Whole Foods, which is great. But then I'll buy some pre-made things like this Chipotle Veganese. This actually is a Chipotle flavor that you put on the rice bowl, and it gives you a really good smoky flavor. And then I've found this miso mayo, sweet black garlic, kind of a mayonnaise. And it is also very low in sodium, which is why I like it. The lowest sodium salsa I could find was at PCC. It's this Green Mountain Gringo. And it only has, I think, about 80 milligrams per 2 tablespoons, which is some of the lowest I've found. But it works great on eggs in the morning. And I do want to mention again, the beef is either, this is bison from Whole Foods, but I also look for grass-fed beef. Another superfood are blueberries, and again, Costco has an amazing price on this big, huge bag of organic blueberries, and this will last almost 2 weeks. I make those overnight oats that I've told you about, and then I also buy the big bag of organic sweet cherries. These are not a superfood, but it's fruit, and fruit is good for you. I drink a lot of tea now. Of course, you have to give up soda. Soda is that's just a disaster. So I do have a lot of different teas that I enjoy, but I always kind of fall back to my 4 basics: nettle leaf, lemon balm, and then the Whole Foods hibiscus and the Whole Foods blueberry. Hibiscus tea is actually very flavorful. It's kind of like the Tazo's Passion, but it is organic. And then kind of winding this down, I do actually have dessert on occasion, well actually every night. And what I do is I take the cherries, put them in a jar, and then I add a little bit of tequila. Sometimes I'll use brandy, which actually is a little bit better, but I get the tequila from Trader Joe's. And you just put a small amount in the bottom, and then mix that up. And then for the pudding, I just use Forager's cashew plain yogurt, and then I put chia seeds in there and a little vanilla. Sidebar, this Costco vanilla is a great affordable way to get vanilla in your diet, and this stuff is kind of like a sweetener. Very, very flavorful. Anyway, so the chia seeds and the Forager and a little bit of that vanilla. And then for dessert, I'll throw these cherries, a little bit of sauce into a small dish, throw in a few raisins, and then top it with this pudding, mix it together, and it's a super nice, sweet, delicious treat without the added sugar. And of course, you get the probiotics out of the Live Culture yogurt, which is another amazing thing for your body you need to consider eating more of. So I've got chia seeds, of course, out here. Oh, and my organic almond butter. So nuts are superfoods, oats, blueberries, seeds like the chia seeds. I have flax seeds as well. Just so much of this is based on superfoods. Salmon, that if you just spend all of your energy and time on the superfoods with a few other of the wholesome foods, you'll just really develop this really nice balanced diet for yourself. Now, I am into my 50s. I'm unfortunately suffering from hypertension, but I am trim. I don't do any kind of exercising much. I just climb my buildings 10 stories. I try to do that twice a day, and that's really all I take for exercise. The rest of it really is just clean, simple eating. I also do the intermittent fasting, so I stop eating at 7:30 at night, and I start eating the following morning at 10:30 in the morning. So if you're going to diet at all, why not do it while you're sleeping, right? So it works really well for me. And then of course you can have tea when you're on the intermittent fast anytime that you want, because tea does not count as food. So that is kind of my superfoods diet. I mix things up a little bit, but I end up eating a lot of the same things. But if they're super healthy and super good for you, then I just really enjoy eating that way. And hopefully I've given you maybe a few ideas as well. I went lightning speed because it's just too much to cover in one video. So if you have questions about what I am eating, or you have suggestions of your own, please share that in the comments and we can talk further about it. So thank you for watching this video, and I'm going to see you in the next.